Hey guys, it's Drew. So for years now, I have really wanted a full sleeve tattoo. All the way back in middle school when I was just a little small emo bean, it was a dream of mine that I would be super tatted in the future and I would have a very fabulous sleeve. And this past March, I decided to make that dream a reality. I finally started working on my sleeve and I filmed the first session for you guys, which if you didn't see that video, you should definitely check it out. But ever since I posted the video of the first session, I have had a ton of people requesting that I do a video of the full thing once it's finished. So today, that is just what I am gonna do. I am gonna break down my entire sleeve for you guys and show you each piece, and I'm also gonna talk about the details that went into it, like how I chose each piece, the pain, the cost, everything. So let's get into it. I have always loved full sleeve tattoos, especially ones that stick to a theme. And since I really love Tim Burton films, like they were basically my entire childhood and I still love them to this day, I decided that I really wanted a Tim Burton sleeve. Like I said before, I've wanted this for years, so I have had a lot of time to think about exactly how I wanted it to be. One thing that I decided was that I didn't want my sleeve to have portraits. I didn't want my sleeve to be just a collage of characters' faces. One of the reasons being is if I did that, I would kind of just end up with a Johnny Depp sleeve, which not what I'm going for. I wanted it to be more subtle than that, so I picked out something from each movie that I associate with it to represent it. The next thing that I had to consider was how I wanted everything to fit together in the sense of making it all one thing as opposed to just a bunch of different pictures. Even though all of these movies are by the same person, they're all different. Like, you know, he's got some dark live action movies, but then there's the fun, whimsical little claymation ones. So I felt like they wouldn't mesh the way I wanted them to if I had everything look exactly the way it looks in the movie that it's from. I really like traditional tattoos, so I decided that I wanted the whole thing done in a more traditional, cartoony style. And once I decided that I wanted my sleeve to be more traditional, that's what led me to deciding on my artist. The artist who did my sleeve's name is Shelby, and she is at Thorn Tattoo. I had seen a bunch of her work on her Instagram, and we had a few mutual friends. She actually did a friend of mine's full sleeve, and that one turned out really amazing, so that's kind of what solidified that she was the person that I wanted to do my sleeve. So I contacted her and I sent her a whole list of all of the different things that I wanted to include, and she took that and ran with it, and she did a really amazing job. So if you are someone who likes traditional tattoos, definitely check her out because she does some really amazing work. And now I'm gonna get into the individual pieces. The first thing is The Nightmare Before Christmas. I got the iconic scene of Jack and Sally on the hill. I have had so much merchandise with this image on it throughout the years. I have had shirts, posters, and it's still my desktop background. It's really instantly recognizable to anyone who's ever seen the movie, and it just kind of goes without saying that that would be the one I would get to represent that movie. Now, my Nightmare Before Christmas tattoo was actually done independently from my sleeve. It was not done by Shelby. It was actually done back in Halloween of 2014. Basically what happened was a person that I knew who was apprenticing to be a tattoo artist posted online that they were doing an event where if you came in on Halloween and got a Halloween themed tattoo, she would do it for a discounted price. So I saw that and thought it would be the perfect opportunity to start on my sleeve. But let me tell you, I have been through it with this tattoo. Like I said, the person who did it was apprenticing at the time, so there were a couple little mistakes. Like, it's not like there was anything majorly wrong with it, but some of the lines like were a little bit incomplete and the yellow in the moon was kind of splotchy. So at some point I went to another artist who a few people had recommended to me and I just asked him to fix it up a little bit. And this guy f***ed my whole life up. Like, he fixed the lines and he brightened up the colors like I had asked, but then he went and put a giant splotch of orange in the center of the moon. Like, it wasn't even blended, just a big circle of orange. So I was really frustrated and confused because a bunch of people had recommended me this guy, and I had to go to yet another artist who just went over it multiple times with like yellow and white, and eventually it faded the orange out a little bit. There's no way to completely get rid of it, I guess, unless I would do like laser tattoo removal. So it looks a lot better now. The only thing is that from going over it so many times, there are now some scar marks on it. I don't mind too much though because it looks a lot better than the orange circle, and when I do feel some type of way about it, I just put a little bit of concealer and eyeshadow on it, and it looks like new. Because of all that, I kind of just wish I had waited and gotten it done all at the same time. Along with that, it was also just kind of weird walking around with that one thing on my arm. It just kind of doesn't look right by itself. But that's what happened. What are you gonna do? Moving on to the next one. The next one is Edward Scissorhands. At some point when I had first conceived the idea for this sleeve in my mind, I wanted to just get Edward's face, but like I said, I eventually decided that I didn't want any portraits in my sleeve, so instead I decided just to get his hand. And around the actual hand itself, there's some little snowflakes to accent it. I didn't actually specifically ask for that. Shelby just kind of improvised with that, and I really love it. I feel like it looks so much better with that detail than it would if it was just the hand on its own. The next one is The Corpse Bride. I got this butterfly. This is the butterfly that you see at the very beginning of the movie, and then also spoiler alert, but at the end of the movie when Emily just kind of evaporates into butterflies, I always thought that was really cool. Next is Alice in Wonderland, the 2010 reboot. I have the Mad Hatter's hat. Some other ones I had considered before settling on this one were getting the Cheshire Cat's smile and his eyes, but I felt like that one was a little bit too close to getting a portrait, so then I considered maybe getting like a drink me bottle, but then I felt like that wasn't specific enough to the movie, so I thought the hat would be a good piece to get because the color scheme is specific to the movie. Going around to the inside of my arm, the next one is Sweeney Todd. I of course got Sweeney Todd's razor blade with a little bit of victim blood on it. What's great about my sleeve being finished now is that I can just be like, at last, my arm is complete again. Don't judge me. The next thing is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I got a Wonka bar with a little golden ticket sticking out. This is the one that everyone who sees my sleeve points out as their favorite. I think it's just because the colors are so vibrant. It just looks really good and it definitely stands out. Right next to my Wonka bar, I have a little number 9 squished in there. I didn't originally plan on getting that in my sleeve, but 9 is a movie that I did really love and it does have a nostalgic quality to me, so I decided to add it in a little bit later. Next is Beetlejuice. I got a Saturn sandworm and I just love this little guy. I wanted him to kind of flow throughout my sleeve a little bit as opposed to just being in one spot, so he actually starts right here above my elbow and then it comes out on the underside. Next is Frankenweenie. I got Sparky right on the inside of my elbow. I know this one's kind of like a portrait, but he's just so cute. I had to include him in there, and he's got his little tombstone next to him. This probably wasn't the best placement for it because when I bend my elbow, he kind of gets smushed, but I mean, whatever. Next is Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I have Pee-wee's super rad bike. A lot of people don't actually realize that that one is by Tim Burton. I didn't actually know until like a couple years later down the line, but I always loved Pee-wee Herman as a kid, especially the movie. I just remember watching it with my mom so many times when I was little. Even if something happened and I ended up not wanting a sleeve, I would have still gotten Pee-wee's bike tattooed somewhere on me. That's kind of why I have it here on my forearm where it's like front and center. And this one is actually my favorite piece out of my whole sleeve, partly because of all the details and how good the colors look, but also it just holds a special meaning to me. Next is James and the Giant Peach. Right on my forearm, I have the peach being carried by birds, and it has the fence wrapped around it. The fence kind of differentiates that this is supposed to be from the movie because it's not in the book, so I specifically wanted it to have that fence on it. This is another one that I think the color just turned out really amazing. I just love how bright it is. The next one is Coraline. I got a little button key. Now before you go down and leave an angry comment, I am well aware that Coraline isn't actually by Tim Burton. Coraline is actually by Henry Selick, not Tim Burton, and I know when I posted my first video about my tattoo, a couple people were like, you know that's not by Tim Burton, right? I was well aware of that when I chose to get it, I just wanted it anyway. Like, I'm getting this sleeve that has a bunch of my favorite movies on it, and Coraline is one of my favorites, and it's also kind of in the same family, so I just wanted to put it in there. The next one is Sleepy Hollow. I got the Tree of Death on my wrist. In the movie, it's darker than this, but since my sleeve is full color, we went with more brown instead of black, so that way it wouldn't set it apart from everything else. And I think the colors on this one really look amazing. Last is Mars Attacks. I have a Martian right here on the inside of my wrist. This one is the only portrait I have, and it's also the most detailed thing out of my whole sleeve. The spaceships, just like the snowflakes, I didn't specifically ask for. She just kind of added that as an accent, and once again, it looks really good. This Martian's a pretty cool dude. So those are all the individual pieces in my sleeve. Now, some of you guys might be saying like, well, what about this movie? Or you forgot this thing. I didn't get something from every single Tim Burton movie in my sleeve. If you were getting a sleeve of every movie by one director, unless that person is already dead, you'd kind of be adding stuff forever. I didn't really include any recent movies. The newest one is Sparky. I wanted to include the ones that I really love, the ones that I grew up with, the ones that are kind of nostalgic to me. That's why I didn't get something from Batman, for example, because I wasn't like super into that as a kid. I just got the ones that meant the most to me. Now let's get into the process. It took a total of 4 sessions for me to get my sleeve completely done, with about 2 weeks in between each session. So basically I would go in, she would do a few hours of work, and then as soon as it was basically healed up is when I would go right back in. I prefer to get as much complete as possible. I hate walking around with something that's just half done. So as soon as I could go back is when I went back so that I could get it done as quickly as possible. The first session was the one where we did all the line work. That's the one that I posted the video of. It took about as long to get the stencils on as it did to actually get the tattooing done. Because there were so many individual pieces that I wanted put together, it was just a process of her putting a couple stencils on, and then we look at it in the mirror. Maybe something didn't exactly look right, so she would erase it all, go back and print out some new stencils. Maybe some were smaller, maybe some were bigger, put a couple down again, maybe take some off again. And then after we finally got the stencils down, then she kind of freehanded a few things with some Sharpie. So that one in total took the longest, but the actual tattooing itself took 3.5 hours. After I got all the line work done, the next session was starting on the color. She colored everything in from my shoulder down to my elbow, and that took another 3.5 hours. After that, the third session was just the same thing, more color, this time from the elbow all the way down to my wrist. And I asked her to add a few things like some antennas on the butterfly, which weren't originally there, and the ribbons coming off of the Mad Hatter's hat. That one took 3 hours, and I was very swollen afterwards. I remember taking a few clips because my wrist was just like bulging out where she had tattooed. I don't know why, but my skin really was not feeling it that day. And the very last session, which was at the end of May, was for the filler. I wanted the space in between each piece to be filled in with some little purple clouds. I wanted them to be quite a bit spaced out, which is why you see so much of my skin. Personally, I don't really like when a sleeve is like super solid because it doesn't even look like your arm is connected to you. That's just my personal thing. I wanted it to still look like my arm and my skin, just with decorations on it. So she did some nice light swirly purple clouds to link everything together. Right on my elbow is a big swirly cloud. You can't really put like, you know, a picture on your elbow, so I just got some clouds right there to fill that space. I was expecting the elbow to be really bad because a lot of people say that it's like a super painful place because it's like right on bone, but it actually didn't really hurt that much more than anything else. The thing that actually hurt was the inner elbow, like right here with the belly of the sandworm and all these little clouds that are on the inner elbow. That hurt because it's just like soft and very, very sensitive. Surprisingly, the elbow didn't bother me at all. So as far as price goes, it was $100 an hour, so you can do the math. It was over $1,000 in total. It was basically exactly what I expected to spend, so I was already ready and prepared for it. Getting such a huge piece obviously is going to cost you, but it's worth every penny to have good work. This is something that's going to be on me forever, so I wasn't looking for a bargain. I just wanted it to look good. And overall, I am just incredibly happy with it. It is everything that I had envisioned in my mind. I feel like 10 times more confident since I got my sleeve done because I feel like I am closer to like my little aesthetic. Everybody, especially people who are into like body modification, they have like this like end goal picture of what they want to look like. And I don't know, I just feel so much more complete now that I have this. It's something that I really wanted on myself for years, and now that I finally have it, I am just ecstatic. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that if you are someone who is also considering getting a sleeve tattoo, that this was helpful for you. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell button if you haven't already, and also be sure to follow my social media if you want to see more of my tatted self. Hopefully I answered all the questions that you guys have been asking me, and if I didn't, definitely be sure to leave a comment down below and I will try to answer all of them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon with yet another video. Bye guys!